Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, which most people probably are. Hi, my name is Kennedy, and for today's video I'm going to be doing my May wrap-up, and I think I'm a little crooked. Let's see if that's a little better. But yeah, today I'm going to be doing my May wrap-up. I honestly can't believe we're already in June and like halfway through June at that. Like, to me that's crazy. This year is just going by so fast, and like I was traveling the end of May and beginning of June, so it's just like a crazy time. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about the 5 books I read in May. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I read 5 books in May, which is not terrible. It's better than some previous months, but I honestly did think I was gonna read a little bit more. So let's just dive on into the books. The first book I completed was The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. This is an adult fantasy book that I was obsessed with. I just, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to explain this. Basically, we have our main guy. His name is Sir Conrad von Volt, and underneath him is his apprentice, and her name is Helena, and Helena is technically our perspective that we're in. We're following her and her journeys with Sir Conrad von Volt, and there's this really cool kind of magic system. It's very low on the magic in this book, but when it does happen, it's really cool. Basically, Sir Conrad von Volt is part of the Empire, so he has parts of the Emperor's magic. So he can basically, like during an interrogation, use the Emperor's voice, which is very forceful, and it makes the person tell the truth, or what they think is the truth. And it's just really cool. If you've seen the show Vampire Diaries, it's kind of like compelling in that way, where it's like if he uses that voice, they will tell him. And they can try and resist it, and most of the time they fail. So it's really cool. It's about them trying to figure out this murder mystery, but there's also other mysteries within it, and it's just amazing. I loved this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The ending was crazy. I just can't wait to read the second book, but I'm waiting for the hold for the library to come in, and it's just so good. If you like adult fantasy books, I would highly recommend. I don't know, I was just entranced in this book. It did take me a little bit to get into, and then once I was into it, I was obsessed. And then the next book I read is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, which is like a short novella. I think it's like 150-ish pages, and it's really fascinating. It's about this man who's an ex-soldier, and he basically goes to this manor, or like this place, because he gets a letter from an old friend saying that she's very sick and she's going to die. And so he goes. He was a doctor in the war and everything, so he goes to both say goodbye and also to kind of figure out like what's wrong with her. And he hasn't really heard from her in a long time. It's him and her, or it's her and his, oh my gosh, her and her brother living in this house. And then when he gets there, he notices that there's some really weird things going on, and I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll kind of leave it vague like that. This is a retelling of the Fall of the House of Usher, I believe it's called, and I honestly didn't think I was gonna like this in the beginning. The writing style took me a while to get into, but I actually really ended up enjoying this. It got really creepy, and the answer to the kind of mystery element I really enjoyed for specific reasons that I won't go into because, again, spoilers. But yeah, I really liked this. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars just because the beginning I was not really liking it and I actually almost DNF'd it. But I'm glad I didn't. I really liked the ending. I just really liked it, and I just found out that T. Kingfisher is making more books in this series, so I am really excited for those as well. And then actually in the same day, I read Shiver by Junji Ito, which is a horror manga, and I'm a big fan of this author's works, but this has got to be one of my favorites that I've read by him so far. I just was really interested in every story, and I feel like it's one of his least repetitive books. Some of his books, again, get kind of repetitive and they just lose me by the end, but I feel like this one, for the most part, like, I loved almost every story. I read it really quickly, and yeah, it's just one of my favorites by him, and it's really hard to explain because it's a collection of short stories, which most of his books are. And so if you're looking to get into Junji Ito, I would really recommend this. Honestly, you can't really go wrong with any of his books, in my opinion, that I've read so far. I love his books. They're really creepy. I love his art style. Yeah, this one was really good, and I ended up giving it like a, honestly, for a manga, 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, the next book, oh my gosh, is another oh my gosh, I had a really good reading month actually. So the next book is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, and ooh, there is a a plane going by. So sorry if you hear that. My window's open and it's raining and I don't know. But The Dead Romantics, this book is so good. It's such a unique book, in my opinion, for romance. So basically it follows our main character who's a ghostwriter for this older woman, and she gets a new editor, and this editor is like this really attractive guy. She runs into him and they kind of get off on the wrong foot because she says some things about how romance is like kind of dead, if I'm remembering correctly, and they just kind of get off on the wrong foot, and then they end up actually seeing each other. I think it's the same day at like a bar or like somewhere kind of like that, and they hit it off, and actually I think they end up kissing. And then our main character finds out that her father has passed away, so she goes to help set up the funeral. Her whole family runs like a funeral home, so the most of the book is actually about her grief with her father, but also just how like the family deals with it and sets up for the funeral. And when she first gets there, she actually realizes that she can see her new editor that she just kissed at her house, and she's like, what are you doing here? And she finds out that he got into a really bad car accident, or he was like hit by a car, and that she's seeing his ghost. And so it's just really, it's like, oh, there's a lot of talk of death and grief in this book, so definitely trigger warnings for that. But I don't think that it's like a super depressing book overall. I actually think that it dealt with those topics really well and in a sensitive way, but also obviously if you just lost a family member, I would not read this. And there's a really cute romance between her and her ghost editor, and it's just so good. And I really loved both the characters. I loved their dynamic, and the ending is so good. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about this, I feel like, because I don't want to spoil it, but I would really recommend this if you like romances that pack a little bit of a punch. And yeah, there's a lot more I could say about this, but again, I'll just leave it at that for now. And then the last book I was able to complete in May is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. Oh my gosh, this was another hit for me. I freaking love this book. I literally read it in one sitting. I was driving to, or my family was on a road trip to Colorado, and it was like a 13-hour drive. And I read this in just a couple of those hours. I flew through it. It is such a fast-paced book. It's about our main character who is house sitting for this family kind of in the middle of nowhere in like this beachy town, and she just wants to be alone. She wants to read her Kindle romances and just watch this house and be away from everyone. But she starts to befriend this neighbor, and this neighbor recommends a book to her, so she reads it, and it's like the worst book she's ever read. So she writes a bad review for it. She writes a 1-star review, and it's like an indie horror book. And so the author actually sees her review and is like, hey, like, you're messing up my reviews and I need the publicity of good reviews, like, could you take it down? And she's kind of like, no, like, I wrote my review for a reason. I don't want other people to read it because they see all these good reviews and then it to be like this not so good book. And the author does not take it very well, or well at all. So yeah, so our main character starts to kind of feel the creeps. Like, she kind of feels like someone's watching her, and she starts to suspect that it's this crazy author that she wrote the 1-star review for. Oh my gosh, this book was such a roller coaster. I feel like I couldn't breathe during like the whole book. Obviously I could, but like it was just like a, oh my gosh, I have to see what's gonna happen next. And I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The ending was insane. I could not trust anyone, and I was just like, oh my god, like, what even is this book? And I loved it, and I definitely am going to buy a physical copy of this book because it's one of my favorite books of the year this year so far, probably, and I got it from the library, and I'm just so if you like thriller books, especially revolving around, and you also like books revolving around books, this one is so freaking good, and it gave me the heebie-jeebies. And it also has a dog in it that I loved. I loved that dog. And because I'm a dog person, I have 2, and it was just so nice to see a book like incorporate a dog. And like, what do you do in a situation where you're like trying to protect yourself but trying to protect your dog as well? And it's like, oh my gosh, so freaking good. If you haven't read it yet, I would highly recommend. And yeah, I've been talking about it for too long, but it was just so good and I loved it. And yeah, so those are all the books that I finished in May. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I honestly really loved everything I read this month. It was a very successful month, both in quantity and quality compared to some previous months. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and hopefully I will see you guys soon. Bye!